Hi, everybody. This is Kim, and I'm doing something different today. And I am doing a live reading. And you can, if you are a subscriber or if you want to subscribe now, you can go ahead and comment or chat. And I'm going to try to get through First Samuel 22 till the end. I think it's 31. Yeah, and I've just been my days have been really full the last couple days. They've been filled with blessings, but very full. So it would take some time to record and put that all together and upload. So I thought I would just go live since you're used to on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the fact that I actually go live. I actually post a video around 6 o'clock Eastern time. So I'm going to go ahead and read, and I am looking for more subscribers. I would like to get 500, 1,000 subscribers. I know that sounds crazy, but it would be fun. And I hope that you're blessed by this reading. Hopefully, I won't be coughing or anything like that, but you'll be so lucky if you catch me coughing. I'm able to actually uh, suspend the recording so that I can cough or whatever. I'm getting over bronchitis. So hopefully this will be a blessing to you. And I'm going to get started. And I will look for comments too in case there's any. So this might be a little bit different. Thanks for joining me. So David left Gath and escaped to the cave of Adullam, where his brothers and other relatives soon joined him. Then others began coming, those who were in any kind of trouble, such as being in debt or merely discontented, until David was the leader of about 400 men. Later, David went to Mizpah in Moab to ask permission of the king for his father and mother to live there under royal protection until David knew what God was going to do for him. They stayed in Moab during the entire period when David was living in the cave. One day the prophet Gad told David to leave the cave and return to the land of Judah. So David went to the forest of Hereth. The news of his arrival in Judah soon reached Saul. He was in Gibeah at that time, sitting beneath an oak tree, playing with his spear, surrounded by his officers. "Listen here, you men of Benjamin," Saul exclaimed when he heard the news. "Has David promised you fields and vineyards and commissions in his army? Is that why you are against me? For not one of you has ever told me that my own son is on David's side. You're not even sorry for me. Think of it, my own son encouraging David to come and kill me." Then Doeg, it looks like Doug. Then Doeg, the Edomite, who was standing there with Saul's men, spoke up. "When I was at Nob," he said, "I saw David talking to Ahimelech the priest. Ahimelech consulted the Lord to find out what David should do, and then gave him food and the sword of Goliath, the Philistine." King Saul immediately summoned Ahimelech and all his family and all the other priests at Nob. When they arrived, Saul shouted at him, "Listen to me, you son of Ahitub." "What is it?" quavered Ahimelech. "Why have you and David conspired against me?" Saul demanded. "Why did you give him food and a sword and talk to God for him? Why did you encourage him to revolt against me and to come here and to attack me?" "But, sir," Ahimelech replied, "is there anyone among all your servants who is as faithful as David, your son-in-law? Why, he is the captain of your bodyguard and a highly honored member of your own household." This was certainly not the first time I had consulted God for him. "It's unfair for you to accuse me and my family in this matter, for we knew nothing of any plot against you." "You shall die, Ahimelech, along with your entire family," the king shouted. He ordered his bodyguards, "Kill these priests, for they are allies and conspirators with David. They knew he was running away from me, but they didn't tell me." But the soldiers refused to harm the clergy. Then the king said to Doeg, "You do it." So Doeg turned on them and killed them, 85 priests in all, all wearing their priestly robes. Then he went to Nob, the city of the priests, and killed the priests' families, men, women, children, and babies, and also all the oxen, donkeys, and sheep. Only Abithar, one of the sons of Ahimelech, escaped and fled to David. When he told him what Saul had done, David exclaimed, I knew it. When I saw Doeg there, I knew he would tell Saul. Now I have caused the death of all your father's family. Stay here with me, and I'll protect you with my own life. Any harm to you will be over my dead body. One day news came to David that the Philistines were in Keilah robbing the threshing floors. David asked the Lord, Shall I go and attack them? Yes, go and save Keilah, the Lord told him. But David's men said, We're afraid, even here in Judah. We certainly don't want to go to Keilah to fight the whole Philistine army. David asked the Lord again, and the Lord again replied, Go down to Keilah, for I will help you conquer the Philistines. They went to Keilah and slaughtered the Philistines and confiscated their cattle, and so the people of Keilah were saved. Abiathar the priest went to Keilah with David, taking his ephod with him to get answers for David from the Lord. Saul soon learned that David was at Keilah. Good, he exclaimed, we've got him now. God has delivered him to me, for he has trapped himself in a walled city. So Saul mobilized his entire army to march to Keilah and besiege David and his men. But David learned of Saul's plan and told Abiathar the priest to bring the ephod and to ask the Lord what he should do. O Lord, God of Israel, David said, I have heard that Saul is planning to come and destroy Keilah because I am here. Will the men of Keilah surrender me to him? And will Saul actually come as I have heard? O Lord God of Israel, please tell me. And the Lord said, He will come. And will these men of Keilah betray me to Saul? David persisted. And the Lord replied, Yes, they will betray you. So David and his men, about 600 of them now, left Keilah and began roaming the countryside. Word soon reached Saul that David had escaped, so he didn't go there after all. David now lived in the wilderness, caves in the hill country of Ziph. One day, near Horish, he received the news that Saul was on his way to Ziph to search for him and kill him. Saul hunted him day after day, but the Lord didn't let him find him. Prince Jonathan now went to find David. He met him at Horish and encouraged him in his faith in God. Don't be afraid, Jonathan reassured him. My father will never find you. You're going to be the king of Israel, and I will be next to you, as my father is well aware. So the two of them renewed their pact of friendship, and David stayed at Horish while Jonathan returned home. But now the men of Ziph went to Saul in Gibeah and betrayed David to him. We know where he is hiding, they said. He is in the caves of Horish on Hashelah Hill, down in the southern part of the wilderness. Come on down, sir, and we will catch him for you, and your fondest wish will be fulfilled. Well, praise the Lord, Saul said. At last someone has had pity on me. Go and check again to be sure of where he's staying and who has seen him there, for I know that he is very crafty. Discover his hiding places and then come back and give me a more definite report. Then I'll go with you, as if he is in the area at all. I'll find him if I have to search every inch of the entire land. So the men of Ziph returned home, but when David heard that Saul was on his way to Ziph, he and his men went even further into the wilderness of Maon in the south of the desert. But Saul followed him there. He and David were now on opposite sides of a mountain. As Saul and his men began to close in, David tried his best to escape, but it was no use. But just then a message reached Saul that the Philistines were raiding Israel again. So Saul quit the chase and returned to fight the Philistines. Ever since that time, the place where David was camped has been called the Rock of Escape. David then went to live in the caves of En Gedi. After Saul returned from his battle with the Philistines, he was told that David had gone into the wilderness of En-gedi. So he took 3,000 special troops and went to search for him among the rocks and wild goats of the desert. At the place where the road passes some sheepfolds, Saul went into a cave to go to the bathroom. But as it happened, David and his men were hiding in that cave. Now is your time, David's men whispered to him. Today is the day the Lord was talking about when he said, I will certainly put Saul into your power to do with as you wish. Now I know what happens here. Then David crept forward and quietly slid off the bottom of Saul's robe. But then his conscience began bothering him. I shouldn't have done it, he said to his men. It is a serious sin to attack God's chosen king in any way. These words of David persuaded his men not to kill Saul. After Saul had left the cave and gone on his way, David came out and shouted after him, My lord the king. And when Saul looked around, David bowed low before him. Then he shouted to Saul, Why do you listen to the people who say I am trying to harm you? This very day you have seen it isn't true. For the Lord placed you at my mercy back there in the cave. And some of my men told me to kill you, but I spared you. For I said, I will never harm him. He is the Lord's chosen king. See what I have in my hand? It is the hem of your robe. I cut it off, but I didn't kill you. Doesn't this convince you that I am not trying to harm you and that I have not sinned against you, even though you have been hunting for my life? The Lord will decide between us. Perhaps he will kill you for what you are trying to do to me, but I will never harm you. As the old proverb says, wicked is as wicked does. But despite your wickedness, I'll not touch you. And who is the king of Israel trying to catch anyway? Should he spend his time chasing one who is as worthless as a dead dog or a flea? May the Lord judge as to which of us is right and punish whichever one of us is guilty. He is my lawyer and defender, and he will rescue me from your power. Saul called back, Is it really you, my son David? Then he began to cry, and he said to David, You are a better man than I am, for you have repaid me good for evil. Yes, you have been wonderfully kind to me today, for when the Lord delivered me into your hand, you didn't kill me. Who else in all the world would let his enemy get away when he had him in his power? May the Lord reward you well for your kindness you have shown me today, and now I realize that you are surely going to be king, and Israel shall be yours to rule. Oh, swear to me by the Lord that when that happens, you will not kill my family and destroy my line of descendants. So David promised, and Saul went home, but David and his men went back to their cave. Shortly afterwards, Samuel died, and all Israel gathered for his funeral and buried him in his family plot at Ramah. Meanwhile, David went down to the wilderness of Paran. A wealthy man from Maon owned a sheep ranch there, near the village of Carmel. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and was at his ranch at the time for the sheep shearing. His name was Nabal, and his wife, a beautiful and very intelligent woman, was named Abigail. But the man who was a descendant of Caleb was uncouth, churlish, stubborn, and ill-mannered. I apologize. I knew I wouldn't get through this without having to cough. When David heard that Nabal was shearing his sheep, he sent 10 of his young men to Carmel to give him this message. May God prosper you and your family and multiply everything you own. I am told that you are shearing your sheep and goats. While your shepherds have lived among us, we have never harmed them, nor stolen anything from them the whole time they have been in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you whether or not this is true. Now I have sent my men to ask for a little contribution from you, for we have come at a happy time of holiday. Please give us a present of whatever is at hand. The young men gave David's message to Nabal and waited for his reply. I see that I have an audience, and welcome to my live stream. The young men gave David's message to Nabal and waited for his reply. Who is this fellow, David? He sneered. Who does this son of Jesse think he is? There are lots of servants these days who run away from their masters. Should I take my bread and my water and my meat that I have slaughtered for my shearers and give it to a gang who comes from God knows where? So David's messengers returned and told him that what Nabal had said. Get your swords, was David's reply as he strapped on his own. 400 of them started off with David, and 200 remained behind to guard their gear. Meanwhile, one of Nabal's men went and told Abigail, David sent men from the wilderness to talk to our master, but he insulted them and railed at them. But David's men were very good to us, and we never suffered any harm from them. In fact, day and night they were like a wall of protection to us and the sheep, and nothing was stolen from us. The whole time they were with us. You'd better think fast, for there is going to be trouble for our master and his whole family. He's such a stubborn lout that no one can even talk to him. Thanks for joining me. If you want to put in the comments, say a hello or where you're from, that would be fun. Sorry, I'm probably going to be reading a little extra today, and I'm getting over bronchitis, so don't mind my coughing once in a while. Then Abigail hurriedly took 200 loaves of bread, 2 barrels of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 2 bushels of roasted grain, 100 raisin cakes, and 200 fig cakes, and packed them onto donkeys. Go on ahead, she said to her young men, and I will follow. But she didn't tell her husband what she was doing. As she was riding down the trail on her donkey, she met David coming towards her. David had been saying to himself, a lot of good it did us to help this fellow. We protected his flocks in the wilderness so that not one thing was lost or stolen. But he has repaid me bad for good. All that I get for my trouble is insults. May God curse me if even one of his men remains alive by tomorrow morning. When Abigail saw David, she quickly dismounted and bowed low before him. I accept all blame in this matter, my lord, she said. Please listen to what I want to say. Nabal is a bad-tempered boor, but please don't pay any attention to what he said. He's a fool, just like his name means. But I didn't see the messengers that you sent, sir. Since the Lord has kept you from murdering and taking vengeance into your own hands, I pray by the life of God and by your own life too, that all your enemies shall be as cursed as Nabal is. And now here is a present I have brought to you and your young men. Forgive me for my boldness in coming out here. The Lord will surely reward you with eternal royalty for your descendants, for you are fighting his battles, and you will never do wrong throughout your entire life. Even when you are chased by those who seek your life, you are safe in the care of the Lord your God, just as though you were safe inside his purse. But the lives of your enemies shall disappear like stones from a sling. When the Lord has done all the good things he promised you and has made you king of Israel, you won't want the conscience of a murderer who took the law into his own hands. And when the Lord has done these great things for you, please remember me. David replied to Abigail, Bless the Lord God of Israel, who has sent you to meet me today. Thank God for your good sense. Bless you for keeping me from murdering the man and carrying out vengeance with my own hands. For I swear by the Lord, the God of Israel, who has kept me from hurting you, that if you had not come out to meet me, not one of Nabal's men would be alive tomorrow morning. Then David accepted her gifts and told her to return home without fear, for he would not kill her husband. When she arrived home, she found that Nabal had thrown a big party. He was roaring drunk, so she didn't tell him anything about her meeting with David until the next morning. By the time he was sober, and when his wife told him what had happened, he had a stroke and lay paralyzed for about 10 days, then died, for the Lord killed him. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Praise the Lord, God has paid back Nabal and kept me from doing it myself. He has received his punishment for his sin." Then David wasted no time in sending messengers to Abigail to ask her to become his wife. When the messengers arrived in Carmel and told her why they had come, she readily agreed to his request. Quickly getting ready, she took along 5 of her servant girls as attendants, mounted her donkey, and followed the men back to David. So she became his wife. David also married Ahinoam from Jezreel. King Saul, meanwhile, had forced David's wife Michal, Saul's daughter, to marry a man from Gilim named Palti, the son of Laish. Now the men from Ziph came back to Saul at Gibeah to tell him that David had returned to the wilderness and was hiding in Hachilah hill. So Saul took his elite corps of 3,000 troops and went to hunt him down. Saul camped along the road at the edge of the wilderness where David was hiding, but David knew of Saul's arrival and sent out spies to watch his movements. David slipped over to Saul's camp one night to look around. King Saul and General Abner were sleeping inside a ring formed by the slumbering soldiers. "Any volunteers to go down there with me?" David asked. He asked Ahimelech, the Hittite, and Abishai, Joab's brother, and the son of Zeruiah. "I'll go with you," Abishai replied. So David and Abishai went to Saul's camp and found him asleep with his spear in the ground beside his head. "God has put your enemy within your power this time for sure," Abishai whispered to David. "Let me go and put that spear through him. I'll pin him to the earth with it. I'll not need to strike a second time." "I know what happens here. Do you?" "No," David said. "Don't kill him, for who can remain innocent after attacking the Lord's chosen king? Surely God will strike him down some day, or he will die in a battle or of old age. But God forbid that I should kill the man he has chosen to be king. But I'll tell you what, we'll take his spear and the jug of water and then get out of here." So David took the spear and jug of water, and they got away without anyone seeing them or even walking up, because the Lord had put them sound asleep. They climbed the mountain slope opposite the camp until they were at a safe distance. Then David shouted down to Abner and Saul, "Wake up, Abner." "Who is it?" Abner demanded. "Well, Abner, you're a great fellow, aren't you?" David taunted. "Where in all Israel is there anyone as wonderful? So why haven't you guarded your master the king when someone came to kill him? This isn't good at all. I swear by the Lord that you ought to die for your carelessness. Where is the king's spear and the jug of water that was beside his head? Look and see." Saul recognized David's voice and said, "Is that you, my son David?" And David replied, "Yes, sir, it is. Why are you chasing me? What have I done? What is my crime? If the Lord has stirred you up against me, then let him accept my peace offering. But if this is simply the scheme of a man, then may he be cursed by God. For you have driven me out of my home so that I can't be with the Lord's people, and you have sent me away to worship heathen gods. Must I die on foreign soil, far from the presence of Jehovah? Why should the king of Israel come out to hunt my life like a partridge on the mountains?" Then Saul confessed, "I have done wrong. Come back home, my son, and I'll no longer try to harm you. For you saved my life today. I have been a fool and very, very wrong." "Here is your spear, sir," David replied. "Let one of your young men come over and get it. The Lord gives his own reward for doing good and for being loyal, and I refuse to kill you even when the Lord placed you in my power. Now may the Lord save my life, even as I have saved yours today. May he rescue me from all my troubles." And Saul said to David, "Blessings on you, my son David. You shall do heroic deeds and be a great conqueror." Then David went away, and Saul returned home. We are on chapter 27 of 1 Samuel. I'm going to cough for a second. Please excuse me. I'm just getting over bronchitis, for those of you who don't know. But David kept thinking to himself, "Someday Saul is going to get me. I'll try my luck among the Philistines until Saul gives up and quits hunting me. Then I will finally be safe again." So David took his 600 men and their families to live at Gath under the protection of King Achish. He had his two wives with him, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail of Carmel, Nabal's widow. Word soon reached Saul that David had fled to Gath, so he quit hunting for him. One day David said to Achish, "My lord, if it is all right with you, we would rather live in one of the country towns instead of here in the royal city." So Achish gave him Ziklag, which still belongs to the kings of Judah to this day. And they lived there among the Philistines for a year and 4 months. He and his men spent their time raiding the Geshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites, people who had lived near Shur along the road to Egypt ever since ancient times. They didn't leave one person alive in the villages they hit and took for themselves the sheep, oxen, donkeys, camels, and clothing before returning to their homes. "Where did you make your raid today?" Achish would ask. And David would reply, "Against the south of Judah and the people of Jerahmeel and the Kenites." No one was left alive to come to Gath and to tell where he had really been. This happened again and again while he was living among the Philistines. Achish believed David and thought that the people of Israel must hate him bitterly by now. Now he will have to stay here and serve me forever, the king thought. About that time, the Philistines mustered their armies for another war with Israel. "Come and help us fight," King Achish said to David and his men. "Good," David agreed. "You will soon see what a help we can be to you." "If you are, you shall be my personal bodyguard for life," Achish told him. Meanwhile, Samuel had died and all Israel had mourned for him. He was buried in Ramah, his hometown. King Saul had banned all mediums and wizards from the land of Israel. The Philistines set up their camp at Shunem, and Saul and the armies of Israel were at Gilboa. When Saul saw the vast army of the Philistines, he was frantic with fear and asked the Lord what he should do, but the Lord refused to answer him either by dreams or by Urim or by the prophets. Saul then instructed his aides to try to find a medium so that he could ask her what to do, and they found one at Endor. Saul disguised himself by wearing ordinary clothing instead of his royal robes. He went to the woman's home at night accompanied by two of his men. "I've got to talk to a dead man," he pleaded. "Will you bring his spirit up?" "Are you trying to get me killed?" the woman demanded. "You know that Saul has had all the mediums and fortune tellers executed. You are spying on me." But Saul took a solemn oath that he wouldn't betray her. Finally, the woman said, "Well, whom do you want me to bring up?" "Bring me Samuel," Saul replied. When the woman saw Samuel, she screamed, "You have deceived me. You are Saul." "Don't be frightened," the king told her. "What do you see?" "I see a scepter coming up out of the earth," she said. "What does he look like?" "He's an old man wrapped in a robe." Saul realized that it was Samuel and bowed low before him. "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me back?" Samuel asked Saul. "Because I am in deep trouble," he replied. "The Philistines are at war with us, and God has left me and won't reply by prophets or dreams. So I have called for you to ask what I should do." But Samuel replied, "Why ask me if the Lord has left you and has become your enemy? He has done just as he said he would, and has taken the kingdom from you and given it to your rival David. All this has come upon you because you did not obey the Lord's instructions when he was so angry with Amalek. What's more, the entire Israeli army will be routed and destroyed by the Philistines tomorrow, and you and your sons will be here with me." Just a little ways to go. Thank you for your patience. I am determined to finish 1 Samuel right now. Saul now fell full length upon the ground, paralyzed with fright because of Samuel's words. He was also faint with hunger, for he had eaten nothing all day. When the woman saw how distraught he was, she said, "Sir, I obeyed your command at the risk of my life. Now do what I say, and let me give you something to eat, so you'll regain your strength for the trip back." But he refused. The men who were with him added their pleas to that of the woman until he finally yielded and got up and sat on the bed. The woman had been fattening a calf, so she hurried out and killed it and kneaded dough and baked unleavened bread. She brought the meal to the king and his men, and they ate it. Then they went out into the night. The Philistine army now mobilized at Aphek, and the Israelis camped at the springs in Jezreel. As the Philistine captains were leading out their troops by battalions and companies, David and his men marched at the rear with King Achish. But the Philistine commanders demanded, "What are these Israelis doing here?" And King Achish told them, "This is David, the runaway servant of King Saul of Israel. He's been with me for years, and I've never found one fault in him since he arrived." But the Philistine leaders were angry. "Send them back," they demanded. "They aren't going into the battle with us. They'll turn against us. Is there any better way for him to reconcile himself with his master than by turning against us in the battle?" This is the same man the women of Israel sang about in their dances. Saul has slain his thousands and David 10,000s. So Achish finally summoned David and his men. "I swear by the Lord," he told them, "you are some of the finest men I've ever met. I think you should go with us. But my commanders say no. Please don't upset them, but go back quietly." I see that I have another person joining me right now. Welcome. And subscribe to my channel. And if you're a subscriber, you can comment. Let me know where you're from and say hello. I'm just finishing up for Samuel. We're on to, we're at the end of 29. "What have I done to deserve this treatment?" David demanded. "Why can't I fight your enemies?" But Achish insisted, "As far as I'm concerned, you're as perfect as an angel of God, but my commanders are afraid to have you with them in the battle. Now get up early in the morning and leave as soon as it is light." So David headed back into the land of Philistines, while the Philistine army went on to Jezreel. 3 days later, when David and his men arrived home at their city of Ziklag, they found that the Amalekites had raided the city and burned it to the ground, carrying off all the women and children. As David and his men looked at the ruins and realized what had happened to their families, they wept until they could weep no more. David's two wives, Ahinoam and Abigail, were among those who had been captured. David was seriously worried, for in their bitter grief for their children, his men began talking of killing him. But David took strength from the Lord. Then he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring me the ephod." So Abiathar brought it. David asked the Lord, "Shall I chase them? Will I catch them?" Please forgive me, I'm getting over bronchitis, but I'm going to read anyway. And the Lord told him, "Yes, go after them. You will recover everything that was taken from you." So David and his 600 men set out after the Amalekites. When they reached Besor Brook, 200 of the men were too exhausted to cross, but the other 400 kept going. Along the way, they found an Egyptian youth in a field and brought him to David. He had not had anything to eat or drink for 3 days and nights, so they gave him part of a fig cake, 2 clusters of raisins, and some water, and his strength soon returned. "Who are you, and where do you come from?" David asked him. "I am an Egyptian, the servant of an Amalekite," he replied. "My master left me behind 3 days ago because I was sick. We were on our way back from raiding the Cherethites in the Negeb, and had raided the south of Judah and the land of Caleb, and had burned Ziklag." "Can you tell me where they went?" David asked. The young man replied, "If you swear by God's name that you will not kill me or give me back to my master, then I will guide you to them." So he led them to the Amalekite encampment. They were spread out along the fields, eating and drinking and dancing with joy because of the vast amount of loot they had taken from the Philistines and from the men of Judah. David and his men rushed in among them and slaughtered them all that night and the entire next day until evening. No one escaped except 400 young men who fled on camels. David got back everything they had taken. The men recovered their families and all their belongings, and David rescued his 2 wives. His troops rounded up all the flocks, herds, and drove them on ahead of them. These are all yours personally as your reward, they told David. When they reached Besor Brook and the 200 men who had been too exhausted to go on, David greeted them joyfully. But some of the ruffians among David's men declared, "They didn't go with us, so they can't have any of the loot. Give them their wives and their children and tell them to be gone." But David said, "No, my brothers, the Lord has kept us safe and helped us defeat the enemy. Do you think that anyone will listen to you when you talk like this? We share and share alike, those who go to battle and those who guard the equipment." From then on, David made this a law for all of Israel, and it is still followed. When he arrived at Ziklag, he sent part of the loot to the elders of Judah. "Here is a present for you, taken from the Lord's enemies," he wrote them. The gifts were sent to the elders in the following cities where David and his men had been: Bethel, South Ramoth, Jatir, Aror, Siphmoth, Eshtemoa, Rakal, the cities of the Jerahmeelites, the cities of the Kenites, Hormah, Boreshan, Athak, Hebron. Meanwhile, the Philistines had begun the battle against Israel, and the Israelites fled from them and were slaughtered wholesale on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines closed in on Saul and killed his son Jonathan. Oh man. Abinadab and Malchisua. Then the archers overtook Saul and wounded him badly. He groaned to his arm bearer, "Kill me with your sword before these heathen Philistines capture me and torture me." But his armor bearer was afraid to. So Saul took his own sword and fell upon the point of the blade, and it pierced him through. When his armor bearer saw that he was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died with him. So Saul, his armor bearer, his 3 sons, and his troops died together that same day. When the Israelis on the other side of the valley and beyond the Jordan heard that their comrades had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their cities, and the Philistines lived in them. The next day, when the Philistines went out to strip the dead, they found the bodies of Saul, his 3 sons, on Mount Gilboa. Sorry. They cut off Saul's head and stripped off the armor and sent the wonderful news of Saul's death to their idols and to the people throughout their land. His armor was placed in the temple of Ashtaroth, and his body was fastened to the wall of Bethshan. But when the people of Jabesh Gilead heard that the Philistines had done, warriors from that town traveled all night to Bethshan and took down the bodies of Saul and his sons from the wall and brought them to Jabesh, where they cremated them. Then they buried their remains beneath the oak tree at Jabesh and fasted for 7 days. I think it's wonderful how David remained true to God's word, to obey God. I think it's sad that Jonathan died, that he and David were such good allies and such good friends. And I thank you for joining me today. I'm normally, I do not go live, but like I said earlier in the recording, I've just been blessed, very busy, but blessed, and wanted to read. I need to keep moving forward and read it all. And I pray that my voice brings you peace, that it relaxes you. And normally on my recordings, I will pause when I have to cough or something like that. So my recordings don't normally have this strain in them. And I don't normally read this long either because this is almost 40 minutes. But thank you for joining me, and God bless you, and have a good day.